The next and final step in finishing up our windowsill is an optional one, but one that I prefer to do as I think it looks better. We will be taking a piece of door casing and putting it underneath the windowsill. This gives it a more complete look and is aesthetically appealing, or at least I think it is. The door casing that we're using is made out of vinyl and not wood. I always recommend the vinyl or composite instead of the wood as it is far more durable and impervious to termites and water damage, both of which are common issues around windowsills. The first thing we need to do is measure out our windowsill at its longest points. Looks like mine comes out to about 38 1/8 inches. Now that we have our measurement, we can go ahead and transfer it to our piece of door casing. I always put a mark at the starting corner to indicate which way I need to cut, and then measure out my second mark further down. Some people prefer to cut their initial angled cut from the beginning before measuring, so they can make sure they don't take off any extra from their piece, but it's entirely your preference. Now that we have our piece measured and marked out, we need to cut it. The angle for the trim piece that goes under windowsills is typically cut at 22.5 degrees, which is what I'm doing here. If you have a semi-decent miter box, you can actually use that instead of a miter saw like I'm using. I just have a cheap miter box that doesn't have a slot for 22.5 degrees, so I have to use my saw instead, which is a bit overkill. Now remember, take your time and make sure you have everything lined up before cutting. You can always take more off, but it's far more difficult to add material back. The next step is to prep our piece for paint. This is really optional, but it helps it match the windowsill a bit more. We're using a piece of 220 grit sandpaper to gently rough up the surface so paint will stick to it a bit better, as well as making sure to hit the cut edges to remove any burrs or melted plastic. After the whole piece is sanded, it's time to move on to painting. When it comes to painting, it really does make a huge difference depending on the brush that you're using. Spend a few dollars extra and get a higher quality one. It drastically reduces the amount of brush strokes. Another huge factor is the type of paint that you're using. Since oil-based paints are almost impossible to get, you want a higher quality paint that will level out easier. In my case, I like PPG's Timeless series as it's a paint and primer in one, and it's actually an acrylic paint and not standard latex. It dries quickly, smooths out beautifully, typically requires only one coat, and is very easy to clean up with just some water. And no, they aren't a sponsor or anything, I just really like their paint. After you have paint on the entire piece, make sure to give it one last pass going in one direction, as this will help the brush strokes flatten out a bit more and be less visible with only one coat. Time for probably the easiest part in this whole process, attaching it to the wall. All you have to do is make sure the piece is centered and go ahead and put a few brad nails in. And for some weird reason, I couldn't figure out how to space out brad nails properly today and ended up putting in 5 when really only 3 were needed. There is one more optional step that you could do here, which would be to put some caulking around everything, going all the way around the piece as well as underneath touching the windowsill itself. You could also use caulking or some additional paint to go over the brad nail holes, but it's entirely up to you if you want to do any of that. I will end up caulking this at some point in the future when I'm caulking some of my crown molding, but I won't be recording that since I don't know when that will actually be. But that's all for this small video series. We've gone through from beginning to end on how to build a windowsill, paint it, attach it, caulk it in, and then add the accessory piece underneath to really bring the whole look together. If there's anything you would like to see me do or want to see done, just drop me a comment down below or join me on my Discord, which is in the description below, and I'll be happy to help out. As always, if you like the content I'm putting out, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and don't forget to hit the notification bell so you stay up to date with new content as it comes out. Thanks so much for watching. Take care.